Hi, this is Em, and spring is about to begin, and it's a beautiful sunny day out there, and there's a couple of mainly foliage that I'd like to press, and I thought I'd take you along for the journey. First, let's do a quick overview of things that you're going to need. If you've watched my videos before, you see where I use these magazines, and I use them over and over and over again. I've had them for years. They are an absorbent paper. They're not glossy. You don't want anything that's glossy to be used for what you're doing. It helps to have some cardboard pads. These are both about letter size. You're going to want some paper to sandwich your flowers or foliage in between. This is just Office Depot copy paper, and you're going to need your carry-all. And I just use one of these flats. When you buy cases of canned goods, this is what's left when the food is gone. And so I just put a piece of newspaper in and a piece of paper on top. You'll need a pair of tweezers and a little pair of scissors. These are my grungy garden scissors. This is a piece of parsley for no reason right now except to have a piece of greenery in our carry-all. Now, if you don't have any telephone books or non-glossy magazines to use, then what you can do is get some recycled cardboard, and that wouldn't cost you any money at all. Cut it down into whatever size you want, and then take a bunch of paper and sandwiches on top. Now, the one thing you want to pay attention to when you're using cardboard is a lot of it has ridges on it. This one has a texture. And if you take a piece of textured cardboard and then you put a piece of paper on top, put your greenery on there, put another piece of paper on top. Okay, there's your sandwich. And then put another piece of cardboard on top. When you go to press, what's going to happen is that you have the potential for the ridges in the cardboard to transfer on to your botanical, which isn't a good thing in my opinion unless that's the textures that you're going for. By putting your paper sandwich in books, you don't take the risk of having that happen because these pages are smooth. If you don't have books and you don't have magazines and you don't have any telephone directories, something else you can do is purchase some cardboard flats. This is 8.5 by 11, or like I say, use recycled cardboard, and then get some chipboard. This is something like 11 cents a sheet, so it's fairly economical. And if you do ever purchase anything to use for your flower pressing, just realize that you can use these over and over again. So you're getting a lot for your money. What I would do if you want to do simple and not buy an official flower press is take your cardboard, either purchased or recycled, lay your piece of chipboard on top, and then make your sandwich. Then lay another piece of chipboard on top, and then lay your cardboard. Okay, so now you have your bundle. Now, to do another layer, just simply add another piece of chipboard, make another sandwich with your flowers or foliage, put your flowers and foliage on, sandwich it, and another piece of chipboard. And then just keep layering it that way. Just make sure that every time you put a piece of your cardboard down that has a texture on it, that you put a piece of chipboard on top before your paper sandwich so that you don't mar your flowers. So there's a couple of ideas on what you can do for pressing. I go into more detail in some of my past videos, so if you would want some more information, take a look at that. We're going to focus on primarily some leaves today, like columbine, rose, fennel, carrot, mantle, and monkshood, and maybe we'll come across something else. Let's get our carry-all ready, and if you're going to press with me, then pause the video and go outside and pick some things, and then we'll meet back in here and we'll put them in the press, whatever you're going to use, gather those materials, and let's get started. This is monkshood foliage, and it's just starting to come up, and one of the reasons why I like to pick certain foliage when it's starting to come up is because it hasn't been eaten yet and doesn't have a lot of blemishes. It'll be a long time before the monkshood flower spikes come up, but by then these leaves, a lot of them anyway, are going to have imperfections on them, and they get pretty big, and I want some smaller leaves. So if you get foliage early in the season, oftentimes the size will be smaller, and if you do smaller work like all occasion cards or gift enclosure cards or jewelry and things like that, you want some smaller sized vegetation. And so that's one of the reasons that we're going to be picking some of these things today. Plus, I have some monkshood pet press that I want to work with, but I don't have any foliage for it. So all I'm going to do is get down close and then snip some of these leaves. And I won't snip as many as I normally would. And if they're fleshy or not hard to do, I usually just pinch them, which is why I never have any good nails, because I use my nails for everything. So I just go around and just pinch things off. I should have waited a little bit later in the day because these are still have a little bit of dew on them. You really want to wait until the dew is gone. This is fennel, and if you want something that has wispy leaves, this is gorgeous. This is a mainstay for me. It's very feathery. Holds its color well. Now this gets really big and tall, probably about 5 feet tall. Gets umbellifera, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, flowers on it. Smells like licorice. Smells really good. And so I won't get too many off of this today, but we'll press a few of them. And you can see where this has been cut back from last year, and it's just starting to sprout. Fennel is related sort of to dill. Dill is an annual. Fennel is a perennial. Fennel is also culinary, so you can cook with it, and I often will put it into my herbal teas, which you hear me talk about from time to time in my videos. This is columbine leaves, and I have the same comment about columbine that I did about the monkshood, which is that by the time the columbine flowers come on, these leaves are going to be eaten up and spotted and just not as nice as they are now. So I always look for columbine leaves early in the season. And another nice thing about them now is that you see the coloration on them. They have some, I guess you'd call it variegated or type of coloration. And they'll turn more just uniformly green as the season wears on. So a lot of times the coloring of your vegetation will be different when it's young than when it gets older. And the leaves are small, so you can work on a smaller scale. They will get larger as the season goes on. This grows in a clump, and these are from flower stalks from last year. Something else that's good for picking right now is the rose leaves that are just coming on. This is a miniature rose, and I have a really hard time finding unblemished rose leaves unless I pick them at this time of the year. And so as they're starting to come on, I am looking for, I don't know if you can see me in camera, but I'm picking some of these down here. And they're not too thorny right now, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just using my fingers to pinch some. And I'm looking for ones that look like they're not all blemished out. Again, same comment. You see how they have coloration? There's kind of there's kind of a reddish color around the outer edges of some of these. we'll go take a look at a regular size rose. Here's a regular size rose just starting to leaf out, and as you can see, there's reddish tinges around these leaves too. And so I'm going to pick these, and they're pretty blemish free. Look at how beautiful the coloring is on that. Let me set the camera down. This is kind of needs to be cut back. It's very wispy. It's going all over. I have to say the deer do like it. It's hard to keep the deer away from them. I'm going to go ahead and pick a few of these. This is, I always get confused and can't remember if it's dwarf lady's mantle or alpine lady's mantle. I think this is the dwarf lady's mantle. And I also have alpine lady's mantle, but there's no leaves coming out yet. And these are really nice for small arrangements. And some of the leaves have kind of a reddish color on them, and some of them are green, but you kind of see how small they are. They are really cool, and they like this gravelly terrain, and it will slowly kind of be a ground cover. Perennial, it keeps coming back. So pick some of these. Oops, excuse me for bumping the camera. And I just picked the tips. This is lupin leaves just starting to come on. As you can see, this was from the stalk last year, and these are very small, and they're not really open enough for the most part to press them open face. Some of them will be, but they also are cool when you press them like in profile. So we'll pick a couple of them to see about pressing open face, or if not, in profile. These are interesting to press. This is, I call it a fern leaf type bleeding heart. You find them in forests, natural, a lot of times along the side of the road. They're not the ornamental bedding bleeding hearts, but they get this kind of bluish, grayish green foliage, which is very interesting. And it's also got a fern-like texture. This is really cool. This is, I don't know, it just grows natural in my yard. You can find it willy-nilly wherever. I would consider it wild. It's not super invasive, but it's some sort of craneville family. Gets really super small flowers, but the leaves are really neat. And at certain times, like now, they have that reddish color on them. And sometimes they're very burgundy. So they go anywhere from very burgundy to kind of a burgundy green to green. And they're really nice for small scale work. And you use just little pieces of it. This is Queen Anne's lace that's just getting started. It's another one that I introduced to my yard, and it can kind of be weedy and likes to reseed itself, and you find it a lot on the side of the road, but I love Queen Anne's lace, and so it can just happily seed itself in my yard. If I don't like where it's at, I'll just pull it out. A weed is only a weed if it's growing somewhere that you don't want it to be, in my humble opinion. And the leaves are wonderful for pressed flowers, hold their color for a really long time, and it's a mainstay. It's got a nice feathery texture, presses really well, and I use it for all kinds of things. I will press it while it's small and young like this, all the way to when it gets more mature, so I have different sizes of it. And we'll contrast that with something that's also a member of the Queen Anne's lace family, and that's the carrot. I have this clump of carrots that I never got pulled last year. See, you can see the carrot down there. But at this point it's growing leaves, and that's what I want right now. Because again, like the Queen Anne's lace, These leaves are wonderful for pressing. The individual small florets work good in miniature work. You can use the whole piece in larger work, or you can use what I'm talking about is small little pieces, larger pieces, or the whole length. So it's very versatile. I really like the carrot. So if you don't have Queen Anne's lace, or you don't want to introduce it in your yard because it's going to be fairly invasive, if you're growing carrots, then press the leaves. Those work really well. Something else that's interesting for pressing, if you like some gray and silver in your arrangements, is Dusty Miller. This really didn't die back much from last year, and so there's still some good pieces of leaves on here. And the higher you get to the tip, the more silvery they are. When you get further down on the plant, they're not as exciting for the silver color. So I usually look for the tips and the most silver parts. For example, like this piece here. So this is the Dusty Miller. In a lot of areas it's an annual, but it overwintered for me this year. I will cut it back a little bit and start it fresh, but this is just how it is after the winter. Something else you could look for at this time of the year is coral bells, and there's lots of different kinds of coral bells, and some of them grow better for me than others, but this clump looks pretty happy. And they are especially known for their beautiful leaf colors, and also they get these wonderful flower spikes for using in small arrangements. And as you can see here, some spikes are starting to come on. But in the meantime, you can pick the leaves. And this one has these beautiful variegated yellowish green leaves. And I have another coral bell like the one behind me, which has more of a purplish color leaf. I can't tell looking in the camera if this is clear or not. So see the difference? Well, I'm not going to press these today. Something else you might want to look for is daffodils are getting started. I did a video last year about pressing daffodils, and you can either press them in their whole or you can slit them in half, which is what I demonstrated in the video, and I will put a link to that below. So if you have daffodils coming on, be sure to check that out. And they do press well and they do hold their color well for the most part, especially certain colors. Here's another color. This is the yellow daffodil. I think this is called King Alfred. Okay, here we are back in the studio, and we're going to go ahead and press some of these leaves. I'll do another session off camera, but this should be enough to get us started, and then I can show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a sheet of paper. I'm going to put these over off to the side a little bit. And I know that the lupin are going to be the quickest to wilt, so I'm going to do the lupin leaves first. And I'm going to put them in the book with the spine on this side, so I'll leave a little margin on this side to hang out on the outside of the book. So we're going to do profile. And most of these with the stems was with the intent of doing profile, and I brought a couple in, and for some reason I usually end up laying these face down, because that way I can kind of flatten them out. Once in a while I'll press things face up, but for the most part I'll do face down. And because we're going to be rolling the book this way, you've heard me talk about that before, that's why I'm facing these that way, because the book is going to roll over them. If you put it this way, it could obstruct. So that's kind of why that is. Here's another flat one. And I think I've got a couple more, and then we'll have a page of lupin. See how fast they wilt? This one's already started to wilt. See that? So I won't press that one. because it's too wilted. Okay, I think that's it for the loop-in. We'll just fill the page up. Remember that crane's bill that I was talking about? Well, that's this one. Now, I'm going to set this one going this way so that when our book rolls over, it's going to want to naturally lay flat that way. See if we have any other small things. Here's some, see, I'm thinking about how it lays. This is some small rows. I'll put one there, and one here. And then here's a real small piece. Alright, maybe we'll put one more little piece over here. And that should be good. Now I'm going to take a book. I'm going to open it towards the center. I'm going to gently get my finger up under here and lift it onto the book. And I'm going to slide it in. So it's like that. Put another piece of paper on top. I will set it back at the spine. I'll make sure this is tucked in there. And I'll roll. Make sure nothing's overlapping and everything's inside the book, or whatever you're using for your pressing medium. And then just simply roll. And then I'm going to put a piece of cardboard underneath. There's your first pile. Now I'm going to put another piece of cardboard. Because I'm doing these in these books, I'm not worried about the ridges of the cardboard affecting the flowers because there's enough pages in between these books, which is another option you can do, is use a bunch of pieces of paper in between. Just use your imagination. You know, just anything that you can think of to make some room between any texture on your cardboard. And another piece of cardboard on top. So now we have a sandwich. And we're going to do, the next thing I know that's going to wilt real quick is our Queen Anne's lace and our carrot. And I want to roll them open this way. So I'm going to face them toward the spine this way. And we want to do it before they have a chance to wilt. Snip off a piece of the stem. Okay, so that one's probably full enough. We're going to go ahead and get another book. I think it's a good idea to make sure that these are arranged the way that you want them before you press them, because it's easier to do it now than to do it later. So if you want something open, try to tease it open. If you want something profiled, then do that. And when you're rolling, try to roll as best you can so that they're laying open and flat if that's the look that you want. See right here on this columbine? Let me bring it down, the camera down closer. There's this little piece right here that I want to lay flat. So I'm going to roll. I don't know if you can see it, but as I roll, you see how that roll gets up under there? And it will take it with it. So when I say I'm using the book to roll it flat, that's what I'm talking about. I'm getting up under this little piece, and we're rolling it flat. Alright, so let's do our columbine. Like I said, they're going to start wilting, so we want to get them going really quick. They're already starting. Let's see how wilty they are. The next thing that's going to start to wilt fast is these fern leaf bleeding heart leaves. And so we will press those. Okay, next up on our wilting is we have some more monkshood. And here's some of that coral bell leaf. Here's some rose. Here's some carrot, which we need to get going because it's starting to wilt. And what else? I have some more of this carrot. Let's move these here. Here. And what else do we have wilting over here? Carrot, carrot, carrot. Or actually, this might be the small Queen Anne's lace leaves. Here's some fennel. And take note as you're watching this of which way I'm laying these down, you know, which side's facing the spine as I put it in the book, because as we talked about before, for helping it to lay flat. Now this fennel, because it's so tight that and I want it to stay tight, I actually want it to press tight rather than open, so I'm going to set it that way. I have another one that's also very tight. And in deciding about whether or not you want to leave the stem or not leave this, and whether you want to leave the stem or not leave the stem, it's up to you. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends. Now here's some more columbine, and I'm going to end up, let's see, well, maybe I can press it face down and open it up a little bit. If I press it face down, I can kind of open it up without having to do it in profile. Here's that dwarf lady's mantle. Now we're getting down to, let's see, we're getting down now. So I just, the monkshood, let's get this getting really out of shape now. I'll do this in profile. Sometimes I'll use my finger, and if I want them to lay a certain way, and I'll press down and kind of do it like a preliminary press with my finger. was trying to lay this flat. Maybe it'll be easier to lay it flat. Well, first of all, if it wasn't getting limp, it would be easier. I'm trying to position something that is not crisp anymore, so I'll just leave it. And now we're pretty much just down to Coral Bell. And this will be the last page that I'm going to do for right now. Okay, there we go. Our carrier is pretty much empty now. So I'll put this away and clean up my mess, and hopefully you got inspired to get out in your yard, or maybe ask your neighbor if you don't have a yard. Maybe they do, and you can get their permission. Or you can go onto some public property where you can pick some stuff without a problem. And now that we have our paper sandwiches inside of our pressing material, I put a board on top, and then this is a cement block on top of that. And sometimes I'll use 2 cement blocks when things are fairly thick. In this case, I'll probably use 1, or maybe I'll use 2 for the first 48 hours. What I do now, just to kind of give you a quick overview, and I do have more detailed videos that I've done in the past if you want to look those up, but basically I will leave this here for 48 hours, which is 2 days. I will take the paper sandwiches out of these books, and then I will put them into fresh dry books. And these over here are books that I've got open that are drying from this pile. Well, it's not much of a pile, there's just a few things in there that I pressed. These are probably almost done now. It's been about a week. That's some hellebore and then Dusty Miller. Let's get these ladies' mantle done, because these are very important. Let them sit in the air for a couple of hours, put them into fresh books, and then for the second round I will usually leave them for maybe 3 or 4 days, and then I will transfer them into fresh books again. And I'll do that a couple of times over the pressing process, because the most important thing about pressing to maintain color, so that they don't start to turn brown or decompose in your books, it's really important to rotate them so that they get fresh air in between rotations and fresh books, and that way you will have very nice looking flowers and foliage to use in your arts. I made the first part of the video, everything before this point, on the 20th, and it's now the 23rd, and I have rotated the foliage that we picked earlier 1 time, and so I wanted to show you where we're at and what it looks like, just in case you're wondering, okay, you picked the foliage, you pressed it, now what does it look like once it's pressed? And this will give you a pretty good idea. This is the dwarf lady's mantle and those Dusty Miller that we did. Here's a still a little limp, as you can see, because it's not fully dry. Once it's dry, it won't be doing that. I was trying to show you give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And you can see I have a piece of cardboard underneath it, so these are the stacks. Here's the monk's hood and the rose, and then that little geranium thing that we talked about. Here's some more Coral Bell This is that Queen Anne's lace. Here's the fennel. See how beautiful and wispy that is? I just love it. Okay, we'll move right along so we don't take too long for this part. See if there's anything different in here. Here's more Queen Anne's lace and rose, the miniature rose. Here's the monk's hood. More monk's hood. I think this is probably more. Oh, here's more coral bell, and then this is the columbine, and you can see how it's still damp, so it's not. You can pick it up without ruining it, but it's still damp. There's your columbine leaves. More. This was the carrot, columbine, Queen Anne. And this is the last one that we did. And ooh, this was that lupin that we pressed in profile, and here's an open face lupin. Let's see if I can get it off. Oops, no, I broke it. Well, oh, see, I'm breaking it. But that's okay. I wanted to show you what it looked like. I'll compress more. It's stuck right in the center of the page, and that's one thing you have to be careful of. But I can still use it in an arrangement like a fan. So that's the open face lupin, and then that's the profile. I just wanted to show you how those turned out, and thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful day.